We've talked enough smack about the Maple Leafs on the show over the years. Will they get back on track tonight against the Calgary Flames? We'll find out about that game, as well as the Avalanche and Bruins and Kraken Oilers will be the nightcap for us here today on Puck Time. Welcome in, guys, to WagerTalk TV. I am Andrew. I have Carmine and Bryan with me here to break down these games. It is half price Thursday. That means you can get a daily pick package for only half the cost of a regular number there. And from what I've seen, not just 2%, not just 3 or 4, 5% as well included in that. So guys, if you want to kind of pick a day to get a UFC fight, an NHL play, an NBA, college basketball, today is certainly the day over at WagerTalk.com. Carmine, you got to love it. These games today, great games to discuss. Looking forward to hearing what you and Bryan have to say about them. Avalanche and Bruins, man. Over to you.
All right, good one to start. It's half price, as you mentioned, half price Thursdays at WagerTalk. It was full price groceries, as I told you guys before the show. $140 for like a couple of bags of groceries. Absolutely horrible. But we did cash the money line parlay. Come on, hands up for you guys in the live chat who cashed on the Detroit Red Wings plus 175 and the Montreal Canadiens, the pesky Montreal Canadiens. Win that one as well too. Identical 3-2 scores in those games, and one of the guys calculated the parlay. It was some juicy odds. Loved it. Let's see what we can do on tonight's card. Andrew, this is a good one because everything you hear is right now is the Edmonton Oilers 11-game win streak. You hear about the Seattle Kraken, two teams we're going to talk about later on, who put together a 9-game win streak before they lost a couple. The Boston Bruins, who are playing extremely well. And it seems to me flying, and the Vancouver Canucks and Winnipeg Jets, flying under the radar screen, or maybe I've just been oblivious to it. The Colorado Avalanche, 8-2 their last 10, 11-3-1 their last 15, and they have 61 points. They are a point out of top spot in the Western Conference, same amount of points as the Boston Bruins. And it seems like, as far as I'm concerned, nobody's talking about the Colorado Avalanche in this game. You're getting them at plus money here, and I get it. The Bruins opened up at 140, a little bit of money early in the markets on the Bruins at minus 145. They're 6-3-1 their last 10, and they're a tough team to beat. But Colorado's just coming. There's no deficit that you can put on them where they're not coming back. Against the Leafs, they fell behind 3-0, win that game 4-3, get into a tight one with the Ottawa Senators, and then blast away in the third period. You just couldn't stop them, and win that game with ease as well too. Listen, I've been giving the Bruins a lot of love on the on Puck Time this season, and this one could be another high-scoring affair because I don't expect Colorado to roll over and play dead. I think the Bruins can score goals in this one. The total's at 6.5, shaded to the under, 20 cents. If it was 6, I'm all over this over, and likely a 4 or 5% play for me at 6.5. I'm a little leery of it, but it's just too much for a team that's 11-3-1 their last 15 games, the Avalanche. Plus 125 seems too good to pass up. They've got 4 games left before the All-Star break. They play this one. They play in Philadelphia. They come home for a couple of games, and then it's the All-Star break in Toronto, and then they'll play a couple of games in New York and New Jersey. I think they can win all 4 games prior to the All-Star break, but it begins with tonight. So we'll see. We're going to start it off with, I'm going to take some plus money on the Colorado Avalanche, and we'll see what Bryan Leonard has to say about it. Bryan, welcome to your regular spot on Thursdays, man. Always good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to be back. And yeah, I'm in agreement with you here. It seems to be some value here on the road team. Avalanche are playing some of the best hockey of the season right now. They're going 8-2-0 the last 10 games. During that time of 5-on-5 play, they have a goal percentage of 51.16, expected goal 50.04. They're finding ways to win without overplaying their metrics. Now, a lot of that has to do with the 2 losses. They lost to Vegas and St. Louis by a combined 15-2. But when you're betting on a nice underdog like this, you don't care by how many they get beat. It's either win or lose is what you're looking for. So I'm in agreement in that. Boston 13-3-3 at home, one of the strongest home ice advantages in the league. It's been that way for years. So it's tough to beat this Boston team in this building. Last 10 games, 5-on-5 play, goal percentage of 60, expected goal percentage of 48.52. So they're playing a little bit over their skis right now. So a little bit of negative regression for Boston. And you mentioned it. It's rare when you can get this Avalanche team as an underdog in this price. They're 11-8-3 on the road this season, but it is their third game in 4 days. I do like Colorado here, but that being the third game in 4 days, I'll probably keep it off of my card. This is a very physical, very good defensive team in Boston. Like the Colorado team, like the way they're playing. Think this line's too high, but that third game in 4 days will likely keep me off. But it would not surprise me. To me, that's the only way you can play this game is Colorado.
This, to me, is one of those numbers where you look at it and you often hear people say a line is fishy. To me, I never really like that word in general. I think, it's like we always say on shows, bookmakers know about injuries. Bookmakers know about scheduling spots. They know about all the stuff that, cappers on social media think they know more than the bookmakers, right? They know certain things. And in my opinion, there's a reason why this price is the way it is. And no doubt about it, you're getting a great number with the underdog. But I do think it's a great spot here for the Bruins and a team that I have forecasted to go on quite a little bit of a run here. They lost 3 straight games. They lose to the Avalanche, of course, just a short time ago. They lose to the Coyotes, and then they go ahead and lose to the Vegas Golden Knights in a very low-scoring 2-1 game. Looking at the team total, up and over 3.5 goals here for the Bruins. Minus 105 is the current number. Look, in that last game against the Devils, I'm confident the Bruins would have got over their team total if they needed to. I mean, the Devils looked horrible. Without Jack Hughes, that Devils team does not really create much offense. It seemed to me like the Boston Bruins were just satisfied with that 3-0 lead and kind of sitting back with it. But no Val Nichushkin, 4th game of the road trip there, 3rd and 4 nights, as Brian mentioned. To me, it's a jam-packed, busy schedule here for this Colorado team. They played all kinds of different types of matchups, different games. And guys, that one against Ottawa was just ridiculous. Like, that game was crazy. It was 2 goalies that don't have much experience that went out there. And that, when you put up 7 goals in a game, sometimes when I watch those, I'm like, man, save some of those goals for the next game that I bet on you. Like, don't waste all your goals here. But I get it. The price is intriguing for this Colorado team. I love the revenge factor. I love fading this scheduling spot. And I think this Bruins team is about to get going here. It's amazing to me how great their record is, but I don't even think they've played their best hockey yet this season, which I think is a very dangerous thing. So Bruins to get to 4 for me. And also looking at this Colorado defense as a whole, it hasn't been anything to really write home about. Looking at their game against Montreal, giving up 4 goals. Against the Senators, when they scored 7 goals themselves, they still gave up 4 goals. So this is a team that even in games they look good in offensively, their defensive numbers aren't showing up. So I'm getting a better price on what I think is a better bet with just taking the team total here with the Boston Bruins.
And Andrew, the thing, and you mentioned it there, sort of the one thing that, and this game did not make my card. The one reason I think that it keeps it off my card, even though I like the plus 125, is the fact that their offense has bailed out their defense. They allow the first 3 to Toronto. They were able to come back, win that game 4-3. They fell behind late in the second period to Ottawa 4-2 before that offensive explosion of scoring 5 goals. But the Boston Bruins defense is a lot better than the Ottawa Senators. The Boston Bruins defense is a lot better than the Toronto Maple Leafs. So unless they can get front, if they fall behind by a couple of goals to the Bruins could pretty much lock down that ice and not give them much. So it's one of those ones where they got to be a bit better defensively. There, if you look at their last 15 games, you just see a lot of 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s in the as far as Colorado team goals. They're scoring goals, and this is when a team is scoring goals, they are so dangerous and can go on streaks. But you have to have some D. So that's sort of the little devil on my shoulder that's saying maybe stay off this one because if they fall behind, the Bruins are just going to suffocate them.
Well, that's why I think the first team to 4 wins, but it also means you get to 4 goals, you could still hit that team total and they could lose. You know, it wouldn't shock me at all if we see a crazy game either. Bruins, you know what, guys, it would make my day for the Bruins to lose 5-4 and all of us to win. Wouldn't bother me one bit. You know, we just all need to cash our tickets, and that's the best part about those team total wagers. Guys, just wanted to shout out everybody that commented yesterday on the YouTube comment section. We really appreciate it. Helps us out. Definitely is big for us here on PuckTime. All the likes on the videos means a lot to us. And again, guys, we love the activity in the live chat. So thanks for being here with us. And we really do appreciate you being with us here every day, Monday through Friday here. And of course, you can find all 3 of us over at WagerTalk.com. And Bryan, I'm going to go to you because I'm sure people out there are just disappointed in us for, or some people like it, some people don't, for how much we just slander this Maple Leafs team. Like, it's almost just made our week for how much they've been struggling. And I'm curious your thoughts because I did see some stats floating around that there haven't been many 4-game losing streaks for the Leafs under Sheldon Keefe. There's been some 3-game losing streaks, a couple 4s, but not that many large losing streaks. But have you seen enough that you believe they can bounce back tonight against this Flames team?
I am totally surprised he's still got a job. Not quite as surprised as I am that the Dallas Cowboys did not make a change at coach. But they know more than I do. I'm just a fan, and I'm a guy who bets on sports. So I'm assuming they're making the right decisions there. And my first comment would be, why don't we just play Toronto to score first, and then once they do, bet Calgary to win the game? Because that's the way that Toronto's been playing. They get these leads, and they can't hold them. I haven't bet it, but it seems to be so obvious that that's the way this game is going to go, and so keep an eye on that. But in all seriousness, the Maple Leafs have a plus 12 goal advantage on the season, yet they've only won 21 of their 42 games played. Over the last 10, 5-on-5, they have a goal percentage of 61.454, expected goals 54.66. So they're playing well. They've outscored the opposition 24-15 on 5-on-5 play. Yet they got a 4-4-2 mark during that time. They've been very fortunate in that regard. The schedule is, unfortunate in that regard. The schedule has been favorable as they haven't played back-to-back games since January 2nd or 3rd. So they ride that 4-game losing streak into this matchup, and I would have to think this is a must-win game for Toronto. We'll see what happens here. But, you got Calgary, on the other hand, have won 4 straight. Over the last 10 games, 5-on-5 play, goal percentage of 57.14, expected 45.70. So they've outscored the opposition during that time 24-18. Both teams have some negative regression coming. With the importance of this game for Toronto and the negative goal regression on the way, I think the under is the way to play here. And normally, when you look at these two teams in Toronto and Calgary, you would look towards the over. I think Toronto's got to do something defensively here in order to keep Calgary in line. And to be able to win this game, they're going to have to play a little bit of defense. So I like the under here in this one. It's going to be a little bit of a surprise play a little bit if you take a look at what they've done on the season. But with the importance of the game for the Toronto side, the under is the way I'm looking at this one. I would want to play Toronto. I just can't trust them.
Well, it's certainly something that they'll want to do, Bryan, is play a more defensive game. We'll see if they can do it, but that'll definitely be a point of emphasis. Carm, anything that sticks out to you, total, side, props, what do you think here tonight?
Yeah, I had to put this game on the card because it is games of interest. So one guy I think mentioned in our chat, I put games on that you guys don't like. Who says we don't like them? They're games of interest and they're ones that we can make points. The idea is to give you guys an insight into how we're thinking, and then hopefully you guys can start to become better gamblers or better bettors, or at least put analytical information to use. But And do you look at this? And I agree with Brian on the under in this one. I hate to use the must-win thing, but it really is. The Leafs need a W. They lose that first game of the Alberta double to Edmonton. They get a 2-0 lead, and they were playing a very good game before that. Before that Edmonton explosion, if you want to call it that, at the end, that extended that win streak to 11. But it's the Leafs' positional play. Watch the Leafs in that game and rewatching some of the highlights, rewatching some of the goals, and I even heard this on some from one of the analysts, and it made sense. You didn't see it until you heard it, but you looked on a couple of the goals, and you had Riley and TJ Brody in their defensive zone at the blue line, chasing guys like Draisaitl around the ice. Come on, man. It is positional, and this is where I talk about being outcoached, because I hate to say, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but Sheldon Keefe gets outcoached because when this team is up, they have no defensive game plan, and this is why they're blowing leads. You cannot blow 2-goal leads 4 games in a row, or whatever it is at this point right now, and blame it on anything but your defensive play. And that's just not just your top 6 defensemen, that is your forwards. Whether you have a third line that you can roll out and stuff these guys. I'm sorry, but when you have a 2-goal lead, you need to ice the game. You need to put it away, and the Leafs haven't done it. The good thing is, if you look at, even the last short term, even the last small sample size of these both teams' last 4 or 5 games, you have Calgary 4-game win streak looks good, but we've seen it all year from Calgary. They look good, and then they all of a sudden look bad. They beat Arizona twice. Prior to that, they beat the Vegas Golden Knights, who were struggling to score goals. Jack Eichel injured out of the lineup. They beat the Ottawa Senators, who are last in the East. So they're getting the wins against the teams that you put in front of them. But are they dominating wins? The Leafs have played the Islanders, Colorado, Edmonton, and there was one other game, and the Red Wings, who we saw yesterday, can surprise you on any given night. The Red Wings are streaking now, 7-1-1, their last 8. So they're playing teams that are either playing extremely well or are very good teams. So short sample size says the Leafs are the play tonight, minus 125. They have to play better defensively. It should be Jones in net tonight. He's 11-4 lifetime against Calgary, 924 save percentage, 248 goals against average. And you got to see what is going on with Calgary, because Markstrom was on the ice practicing Wednesday. He wasn't. He was on before the actual practice, as was Huberdor, if I pronounced that right. Huberdor as well too, who missed the Arizona game due to an illness. So we'll see if those guys are in the lineup. But if it's not Markstrom in goal, then it's going to be Dustin Wolf, who they called up, or Dan Vidar. So one of those 2 guys. So the Leafs won't even get the number 1. We'll see as the day progresses as far as who's the starting goalie here. But I agree with Brian. I say it all the time. When your team is struggling, the way to get back into the win column is to go back to playing defense first, offense second. And we've seen some teams do it with success. We'll see if the Leafs can do that tonight.
I saw a video that PK Subban, of course, everybody should know PK, former defenseman in the NHL, put out. And it was really interesting, guys. He was talking about the ice time for the Maple Leaf players. And I've heard some guys reference this before, but he thinks that the star players are getting played too much and they need to be put out in more just key offensive situations. And he referenced the Las Vegas Golden Knights last year, what made them so successful. There were all kinds of quotes from Vegas Golden Knight players saying, we could play a whole nother round. We could play a couple more playoff games. And the reason being for that was that they had, a lot more of a relatively equal share of play time throughout the top 3 lines. Whereas this team has their top 3-4 players averaging 21 and a half, 22 minutes per game. And what makes teams great is if you can have certain guys you trust out there to take defensive zone draws, to take those certain faceoffs, and to go out there and play defensively. And that way your key players can only be out there offensively. So I thought that was a pretty interesting point, because you really think about ice time, and you really, everyone wants their star guys playing all this ice time. But we're talking about coaching a lot, and I feel like we really have ripped on Keefe a lot between Carm, myself, and Buster. Now Brian's joining in on the fun, but I think a lot of it is not really just about getting out coached, but it's about how he's utilizing his players. But my play, guys, in this game is actually the first period money line for the Calgary Flames at plus 100. Brian referenced, we should just take the Leafs to score the first goal and bet against them, and I love that, and it made me smile. But at the same time, how many games in a row can they score the first goal? How many games in a row can they have that great effort they put out in the first period and then lose the game? Eventually, it's going to come to a point where they're chasing the game again. You can only get so many games in a row where you have that great performance. And I think that's what a lot of people in the media are upset about with this Maple Leafs team, is that the quotes after the game, the players don't seem pissed off enough. Right? Putting it frankly, they do not seem upset about the loss. And everybody's different for how they react to the media. But I think people don't want the Maple Leaf players going to reporters and saying, I think we played a good game. I think we played well. I think we did this and that. When realistically, how can you say that when you just blew your third straight game? There was a defenseman, Devon Toews for Colorado. He makes about, I think, $7 million a year less than Mitch Marner. And he said a couple weeks ago, we're playing like shit. I'm not happy. This is unacceptable, right? He's a defenseman on this team that, it could be McKinnon, it could be Rantanen, it could be some of the other guys on that team saying it, but it was him. And I think that it's good for good teams to be upset. And for Calgary, 4-game winning streak, I know it's against some teams like the Arizona Coyotes that were 2 of those games, but still, I like that shutdown win for them, 3-1 against the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm going to look for a good start. This Calgary team's been a really good starting team. I'll take them plus 100 in the first period to get it done. I don't want to say I'm going contrarian here, but at the same time, I'm not really expecting this Leafs team to come out with the start they have been. I think that Calgary can shut them down. So I'll go with them on the money line here in the first period, plus 100.
Andrew, one thing I wanted to mention, and we're not beating down on the we're trying not to beat down on the Leafs, and I'm the one who picks the games that we're going to discuss. And Calgary and Toronto, obviously, is an important one to cover. But listen, I have preseason bets on the Leafs. I have them to win the Atlantic. I have them to win over. I have them to have over 100 and whatever. I think it was 105.5 points. So I wouldn't have done that if I was a Leaf hater, and that's not the way it works. I'm just critical because I get more info up here because I'm surrounded by media and I have friends in media. So listening to them and talking to them, and the culture of what is going down there, the dressing room, just not having a leadership guy, and not re-signing Ryan O'Reilly during the offseason, who was a voice in that dressing room. The Leafs, I think they shot themselves in the foot overpaying guys. William Nylander, they just signed him to the huge contract. He has not had a point since 4 straight games, William Nylander. And this was a guy who was Mr. Automatic. Andrew, every game, it was a Nylander point. I think Andy Lang has put 2 different wings on his mansion, and probably has a basketball court because he just kept taking William Nylander to score a point, and he was getting it 18 or 19 straight. You guys know the numbers. I don't, but he has not scored a point since signing that contract, and I don't get it. They're on 50 points right now, which is 7th in the East. Tampa Bay's on 49. You got Pittsburgh at 48, Washington, the Islanders at 48, New Jersey 47. And the Montreal Canadiens, a team that, Prez, if you're watching from Florida, you guys are supposed to smash every single time. You're only 5 points ahead of them in the standings. I just wanted to make that perfectly clear. But with that said, Andrew, let's go streaking, as Will Ferrell would say, because we got the Edmonton Oilers.
Oh man, I sorry, I'm still savoring what you said there about the Canadians. Music to my ears. I mean, no Kirby Doc, no New Hook, and this is supposed to be a young rebuilding team, and only a handful of points back from the Leafs. You gotta love it. The Canadians are always big underdogs, so I'm happy. That's for sure. And it's so weird seeing them lose against Buffalo and San Jose, but beat the good teams. I don't get it. But we'll jump into the Kraken and Edmonton Oilers. Looking at the current prices here. In this one, I'm seeing a minus 215, 220 ballpark here for the Oilers. And looking at this matchup, like you talked about streaks, it's a good segue, Carm, because, well, Seattle, they had a streak of their own. And our guy today, Brian, knows all about it. He cashed several tickets on them. But I think we mentioned on the show, and we mention this stuff all the time. When a team is on a streak, you ride it. When they lose one game, you kind of want to start betting against them. 2 straight games, I was able to cash tickets. I bet against them one game. I bet the over the next. Do you think, Carm, this Edmonton team can keep it going? They're back at home now. And if you do, what's the best way to play it?
Yeah, the tough thing is you look at it and you don't want to catch the falling knife. The Oilers opened up minus 200. Of course, I expected it to steam, and it has a bit to minus 220. So you're getting Seattle at like plus 180 right now, which is a great price. But the Kraken, nine wins in a row for this team as well too, before losing the last couple of games. And it was still that theory that I've used of a team on a win streak has it snapped. I like to come back and bet against them the next time. And I think you got to bet against them again. The Oilers have won the last 6 in this series. I've won both games thus far this season, 4-1 in Seattle, and then a 4-3 OT game at home 3 days later. I think it was the 11th and 15th of November. So 4 days later. It is just so tough. 11 games in a row for this team, 19-3 their last 22 games. How do you say to yourself, hey, tonight is the night that the Edmonton Oilers are going to lose? I can't find it in me to bet against them. I don't even want to take the regulation line just because Seattle's a good team. They're playing well, and they very well as you saw, when they lost 4-1 at home, a few days later, they're going to Edmonton, and everyone thought Edmonton was going to roll them, and Seattle took them to overtime. So the regulation bet turns into a loser if that same thing happens tonight. I'm more in tune with taking the over here. I think the over is the right play. It's 6.5, 15 cents to the over right now, and I think Seattle's going to come looking to snap that win streak of the Oilers, and they're going to give them a game tonight. I think we're going to see a little more open ice than what most people expect. And I think 6.5 over, you're paying 15 cents VIG on the over. I think that's the right play tonight. And it may make my card. If he does, it'll be a smaller play just because I don't want to leave it on the cutting room floor. I don't want to leave a winner on the cutting room floor. So I'm going over 6.5 in this one. And I'll let the guy with the analytic numbers tell me whether I'm right or wrong, Mr. Leonard.
Andrew was nice enough to mention my success with Seattle, and we had 2 5% plays in this month on Seattle in the same week, I believe, and they won both games by 3 goals. That's what you need on a 5% play, and Seattle was staying under the radar because their defense was so good. This team was playing great defense. The goaltending was terrific, but they're wearing out a little bit. They've gone 8-2-0 their last 10 games. But they're losing some steam, as you mentioned, losing the last 2. Over that 10 games in 5-on-5 play, goal percentage is 63.89, expected 50.11. So I think there's still some negative regression to be expected from Seattle. They were able to outscore the opposition 23-13 in that time during 5-on-5 play. Defensive goaltending, as I said, during the winning streak was outstanding, but it's been a brutal schedule. This is their 6th straight and final road game on this trip, including playing its 3rd game in 4 days. The Oilers won the first 2 meetings in this series by a combined 8-4 score, so they've owned Seattle so far this season. Edmonton's been on fire as of late, as you mentioned, winning 11 straight games. The last loss being December 19th. It's now January 18th, so it's been a month since Edmonton tasted defeat. That despite 9 of those 12 games being played on the road. This is just the second time Edmonton has played in the last 6 days. Over the last 10 games on 5-on-5 play, they have a goal percentage of 70. Expected goal percentage 58.51. So they too are outplaying their advanced stats. During that streak of 5-on-5 play, they've outscored the opposition 28-12. So the defense has really improved for Edmonton. The defense and the goaltending from earlier in the season. They were still scoring goals early on, but they just couldn't keep the opposition off the scoreboard. They're much better now. And as I'm saying, they're playing a Seattle team that's pretty worn out here. The Oilers should be to play here, as Seattle may go through the motions in the last stop on this road trip. But that said, already 0-2 against Edmonton. If they make the playoffs, they may play Edmonton again. You don't want to go in the playoffs being dominated all regular season against a team. So the line is too high for me to get involved with Edmonton here. Maybe we'll play Edmonton team total over, something to that regard. I think Andrew likes to play a lot of those, and that might be the way to play this one. I think Seattle is a little tired here. So I expect Edmonton to score some goals. We'll see if Seattle can do that also. But the best I can do on this one is Edmonton team total over.
I like it, Brian. Brian Leonard with his thoughts on, and Brian knows Seattle. He definitely knows Seattle because he's been riding the Seattle train and with some great success. So I hope your Edmonton team total gets there, Brian. I'd be good with like Edmonton scoring 7. That gets me my over in tonight's game. But Andrew, I think you got a different approach to this one. Give us your thoughts on this game.
So we have a full game total so far, a team total over so far, and I'm going to go with the first period over in this game, guys. We're seeing a 6.5 as the total, but the over 1.5 in the first period is only -135. A lot of the times when you see a 6.5 as the total, you're talking about 145, 150, 160, some crazy prices like that. This number for the 6.5 full game total isn't heavily shaded towards the over. It's actually slightly towards the under in this one, but I think the situation sets up in a good way, and I do have to mention Brian and I had a disagreement the other day about whether Seattle's a good defensive team or not. They certainly proved they can play defensively. That's for sure. So he was certainly right about that one. We'll see what can happen tonight against this Edmonton team. As you guys talked about, the success for this Edmonton team came on the road. They're now back in front of their home crowd. But they're a big first period team. They kind of remind me of the Golden Knights. In the first 10 minutes what Edmonton team you're going to get. You can tell right away. Is it going to be a good night for Edmonton or is it going to be a bad night? You can just tell by their speed, the chemistry they have, and how they're moving. Obviously, they'll be happy to be back at home. But this Seattle team will not be happy with the last 2 games. One of them way better than the other one. But seeing some goals, allowing some goals, and that last game going up and over the total, I think this game has a fast start. I do think both teams get on the board in the first period, but I don't want to risk that plus price this time around. I'll just stick with the first period over 1.5. The depth has been the biggest key. And I have to mention it because for how many years here on PuckTime have we talked about it just being the Leon and Connor show over there in Edmonton. And if we can get one last dig in on the Maple Leafs, even though eventually people that like the Leafs are going to stop watching, how do they let Zach Hyman slip away? Because Hyman has been unbelievable this year. He is having a great year. You've got Nugent Hopkins. You've got McLeod playing well, Fogle. And then you've got Draisaitl and McDavid. I mean, I think, guys, if you're an Oilers fan, I was saying this yesterday on a different show. If you're an Oilers fan, you almost want McDavid to stay off the score sheet during this win streak. You almost love it. Like, if you're seeing this win streak and he's not getting a goal every game or 2+ points, it's great for the team. He's always going to be great. We all know what he's capable of, but the secondary scoring is what really helps me like a play like this one, because I know in this first period, when his line's not out there, the team is still creating offense. And this Seattle team, one thing I've noticed about them, they actually have defensemen that jump into the rush more than I thought they did. They have defensemen that like to play in a little bit of the offensive game, and I think that we can get a quick start here, guys. So team total over for Oilers, full game over both teams, and first period over both teams. You got to love it. And I got to say, I think that, Brian, you got a Dallas Stars jersey sent to you by somebody or given to you. I think you need to get yourself a Kraken jersey. I'm sure they've made you enough coin. You got to be a Kraken fan. If the Knights don't do well for you some years, you got to just turn into a Kraken fan. But I gotta love that, and they're sharp jerseys. They're pretty nice ones. But you want to talk about some odd changes, I think, Carm, really quick. What do you have for us?
Yeah, Andrew. Just because we have a little bit of time before we get into our show free plays at the end, or best bets, whatever you want to call them, just some quick mentions on games we didn't talk about today. But you're looking at market movers, and the total in the Washington game has been pushed down. It's gone from 6 to 5.5. So the under is obviously taking money in that one. The New York Rangers against the Vegas Golden Knights opened 125. It's up to 135 in some places as well too. And when the circa number starts to go up with it, that's normally a good sign on the favorite, which in this case is the New York Rangers. And the Dallas Philadelphia under has been taking money throughout the morning from the overnight line as well too. So those three are probably the biggest market movers, with the exception of the Edmonton Oilers, of course, going from 200 to minus 220. But that's like I said, I think that's something that you could have expected anyways with a team that's on an 11-game win streak.
There will be some streaks broken tonight. Which one will it be? Will it be an over streak? Will it be an under streak? Will it be this Oilers team? We'll find out. Looking forward to a great night of hockey, guys. As we always know, Wednesday night ended up being not 3, but actually 2 games. And then today we now have a jam-packed slate. Brian, half price for packages here across the board. NBA, college hoops, NHL, you name it. What do you have going today for your clients?
Yeah, I've got a 4% play up today. It's a team total. And I've done very well on team totals, as you have, Andrew, since we've been doing this year. And yeah, I love this play. I'm not one to talk about past situations, but 90% of the play I have is cash 90% of the time the last 10 games. So I think it's a very good play. And of course, I've written it up, and the analysis will show you. It almost made a 5%. I don't put out a lot of 5s, and it's a 4 because a lot of people don't like to play team totals. They'd rather play sides and totals in the games. But a big 4% play in hockey day, and it is half off, so you're getting that for $12.50. Also having a very good college basketball season. I've got 3 plays up for that. So if you're looking to get our college basketball for the day, you also get that for half off. So a really good day to buy any of the handicappers on the site. And just a couple of comments about Canadian hockey. I think that Montreal is a live dog tonight. I didn't pull it because they're playing back-to-back, but I like the way they're playing. They're very confident going into these games, and the line's too high. At least the line is clearly too high to me. And it's good for the NHL when Toronto is good. Toronto, I'm an American, you guys are Canadians. Toronto is Canadian hockey, and it means a lot to Canada when Toronto does well. So even though we're picking on Toronto, part of me wants Toronto to have a really good season. That said, I'll get back to that game for my best bet, and this one we talked about, the Toronto-Calgary game. I played the under. Carmine talked about teams, when you're losing, you have to be able to win on the defensive side, and that's what we're looking at here. Is you've got to play defense. Anytime, how many hockey games we're going to see where guys have tons of shots on goal, they just can't get it to go, or the goalie stands on his head. You need to win with defense. I think Toronto does that tonight. I played the under in that game with Toronto and Calgary. That's my best bet on the show.
Look for a defensive battle tonight against with the Flames and the Maple Leafs. Get Brian's plays, guys, half price today. Looking for those team totals. I love those plays. Just worry about one team with Brian tonight. Catch the team totals ticket. Carm, what do you have going today, brother?
Yeah, four plays right now loaded in NHL. Might add one more to that card, and the one that I add I mentioned on the show, which is the over in the Edmonton Seattle game at 6.5. So I might add that as a probably like a 2% play to the card to make it 5 plays on the card, and you get half off of that. You also get half off on this 50% off Thursdays on my 5% NFL play that goes this weekend. It returns to regular pricing at midnight, so you can take advantage of that as well too. My free play, guys, I'm going to sound repetitive because it was the one from yesterday, and the game was moved to today because of the travel ban and the snow in Buffalo. But I really like the Tage Thompson one. So Tage Thompson over 3.5 shots on goal, -110. You can also say that I like the Edmonton one, so it's almost like the Edmonton over, so it's almost like a double free play at the end of the show. If you're mad that I'm giving out the same play, but it is the play that is in action tonight. We appreciate all the comments from you guys throughout the show. Hit that like button. Get those numbers up and over 100. Tage Thompson over 3.5 shots on goal, -110. And let's get the bread, boys.
Let's have ourselves a night. Yeah, it was a shame about that Buffalo game yesterday, but they will play today. Tage Thompson up and over his shots on goal number for Mr. Carmine. Guys, for me, I'm going back to that Colorado and Boston game. I'm going to go with the over 3.5 team total with the Bruins for my best bet here on the show. You can get around -105 to even money depending on where you're shopping around. Third game in 4 nights for the Avalanche, continuing their East Coast road trip. To me, this Bruins team is looking to go on a run. They're playing some good hockey. They're getting scoring from not just their top guys all over their lineup. Their defensemen like McAvoy really jumping into the rush. And even in some games the Avalanche have lost recently, they have still given up 4 goals. So Bruins team total up and over 3.5 for me for my best bet. Look for that team to get going offensively and keep things going. As far as my plays for today, we've got a 4% NHL bet going. We've got a package up for my props for the NFL all weekend, half price for today only. So if you want to jump in on the props, and I'll tell you what, guys, last week, the props, the odds moved like crazy. There were props I gave out on Prop It Up on Friday that I was not able to to release after Saturday or Sunday. The fact that they changed so much, you guys want to be able to get these packages. That way you're getting them the second I release them, the second I bet them myself, because the line changed like crazy with those. So make sure you guys are kind of keeping your eye out because it's unbelievable and you want to get that best number you possibly can. So looking forward to a great day and wishing Carmine and Bryan the best, and all of you guys out there, best of luck tonight with your NHL betting. I will be on WagerTalk today at 12 o'clock Eastern time talking about some NFL props. But until next time on PuckTime, have a good night, guys.